to the Google Hangout with Mondelez International. I am your host, David Netley. Today we'll be talking about our engineering graduate program. We've been taking your questions over the last couple of weeks. To make this informative as possible, we wanted to make sure we're answering your questions about everything you want to know, and we hope that we can address these in the next half an hour to 45 minutes to help you make the decision on applying. So I'll be directing your questions to two people within Mondelez International. First of all, we have Andrew, one of our leaders who works a lot with our early careers intake of graduates, interns and school leavers. And we also have Ben, who is a second-year engineering graduate. They will be introducing themselves shortly. For those of you who are watching this live, remember that you can still tweet us your questions using either our handle @MDLZ or the hashtag AskMDLZ For those watching this after the broadcast on YouTube or on the Early Careers website, please ask any questions in the comments box below and we will strive to answer them as soon as we can. So without further ado, I will allow Andrew and Ben to introduce themselves. Andrew, over to you.
Okay, thank you, David. Hello, my name's Andrew Paxton. I'm the head of supply chain for our Miss Jackson business, a medicated confectionery business in the UK, based down in Devon. I've been with the Mondelez business for just coming up on 18 years. After having started in an engineering position, and I've worked through various engineering management positions and roles, and then into manufacturing and then section management at the Bourneville factory. I was at the Bourneville site for about 13 years in total, as I said, starting as an engineering manager, and then ultimately as a section manager, running about a third, or just over a third of the site there. Position I'm in now is a really broad role. So I look after and lead teams that do everything from planning and procurement, research and development, packaging, production, and warehousing and distribution right to customer. So a really broad supply chain role in its broadest sense. Okay, I'll hand over to Ben now.
Thank you, Andrew. So my name is Ben Hodges, and I joined Mondelez last year. I graduated from the University of Birmingham in 2013 with a master's in chemical engineering, and during my time at uni I decided that the food industry was where I wanted to be. So like many of you, I went through this process you're going through now about 2 years ago, trying to decide where to apply and what to do. For me it was an easy decision. I knew I wanted to go into food, and I applied to many companies. Mondelez was the main one. What drew me to Mondelez over other companies was the brands, really, that did it for me. So it was the Cadbury's for me. It was just down the road, and that was a big incentive for me to apply here. So since I've started, I've done a variety of things here. I started up in Sheffield, doing project work up there and process engineering work, and I'll go into more detail on this later. Before moving down to Bourneville, where I'm at now, where I'm in the project team doing a project engineering role. Totally different role to the one I was doing before, and again I'll go into more detail about what I've done later. I'll hand you back to David and we'll continue.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Thank you, Andrew. And so as I mentioned, we've been taking your questions and we're hoping to get as many as these answered in the time that we have today. We have some that are based around the graduate program itself, and we have some that are based around the engineering division of Mondelez International. So these questions are not being answered in any particular order, so if that does seem a bit odd in the order that we do answer them in, we're doing this on a first come first served basis to make sure that we answer those that are asked their questions first. So the first question I will be handing over to Andrew for this one, which is, will I be working in the factory or will the roles be office based, or is it a mixture between the both of those?
Well, really, it's a mixture between the both, and it really depends on the placement. I think we'll hear from Ben in a little while about the placement he's on, but there are various opportunities. So office-based roles might be a project engineer or working on a specific project or task, and then within the factory, it could be a process engineer or an engineering manager type placement, very much working with people on the shop floor and working with the frontline teams, if you like. So there's really the opportunities to do both, and really we would encourage people to make sure they have both sides of that. It's important that as you move through a graduate scheme, that you pick up all of those different skills and attributes, if you like, that we would want people to have at the end of it. And Yeah, so really, the ability to do both of those, and we would really want people to spend as much time in a factory and in an office environment picking up the skills that are required.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Okay, so the next question that we've had come in, I'm going to direct towards Ben on this one. What does a process engineer do within Mondelez International?
Well, a process engineer is the sort of frontline technical expertise on a line in the plant. So, for example, in Bourneville, a process engineer, he's expected to know his line better than anyone else, along with the project team, and any improvements as well. So, because he knows the line better than anyone else, if there's improvements need to be done, he's the one that will be scoping out these improvements, doing the cost benefit analysis, and eventually implementing as well. They're also involved in the training of the line, so that they'll know how to run their line. They'll really understand the detail, and they'll be able to train this out to the operators. They'll also be the first point of call. If you're putting a new product onto a line, for example, then they'll be the go-to person to sort of run the ideas past, because they'll know the problems, they'll know what's happened before, they'll know what improvements to make, what needs to be done, and they'll really have that deep understanding of the line. And then there's the troubleshooting, making sure it runs day-to-day aspect of process engineering. So the operators aren't always fully aware of why something breaks down, why a pipe blocks, and the process engineer will know a bit more in depth about that. So at uni we learn a lot about heat exchangers, heat transfer, things like that. So if a pipe blocks, it could be because it's too cold water going into it, the chocolate's solidified, and it's blocked. And as a process engineer, you'd quickly identify the errors that led to that and resolve it. So I think it's a very broad role at Mondelez and could involve a lot of things. And you're definitely working with a lot of stakeholders, and you're also learning with dealing with a lot of technologies on site as well. So it's a really good role to be in as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so to move on from that one, I'm going to ask this one to Andrew, and that question came through asking, what does a continuous improvement practitioner do within Mondelez International?
Okay, thank you, Dave. So continuous improvement practitioner, good question, really. So I think most people would understand continuous improvement. So it's about making things better over time, so improving plant performance or improving the performance of a team over time. And really just listening to Ben there, a lot of the how that works is quite similar to a lot of the roles we'll hear about. So working with teams, working with various stakeholders, working with people around the business is very similar. But for a continuous improvement practitioner, it's around the tools that they use. So instead of them using their knowledge of process engineering as Ben's just described, this is very much about using the knowledge, individual's knowledge of continuous improvement techniques such as Lean Six Sigma, such as 5S or Kanban or Kaizen type approaches, things that are very common in the workplace and that we as Mondelez International are really pushing forward under a number of different schemes of many of our sites, and that we're really keen to do. So it's really it's a real sharp end of driving improvement within a factory. You're really taking the techniques that we get trained on and we are encouraged to use, and really bringing those to life with the first line production teams working with a fairly broad set of stakeholders in that, and really making a difference to plant performance. So it can be really satisfying quite quickly, whether it's getting into making waste reductions, making speed improvements, improving training, improving skills. You can get some really quick results really quickly to really get a team engaged around it, and then really get involved in some of the more difficult things to fix. So again, a really broad role, and it's about putting tools and techniques into use to deliver benefit on the shop floor.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Now, we've had many questions come in asking about the different roles within the engineering program, knowing that it is a rotational scheme that we have here at Mondelez International. This question goes to Andrew and Ben. There will be aspects of this that either of you can answer. What sort of other roles will people be undertaking within the engineering program at Mondelez?
Thanks, David. So we've already mentioned sort of process engineering and continuous improvement. And they're two big roles that you'd want to get under your belt as an engineering graduate. But other roles include sort of a manufacturing team leader. So this sort of is really good experience in getting that early management experience that you wouldn't really get anywhere else quite early on in your career. So this would sort of be being on the shop floor, on the factory floor, being in charge of about 10, 15 people, depending on on which line and process you're in charge of. And you'll be dealing with the day-to-day aspects of that, really dealing with whether people are in, whether people are out, how your process is running today, are you meeting are you meeting the standards you need to get to, and all that. And it's kind of experience that you don't get until quite late on in your career. But at Mondelez, they sort of give you the chance to have that experience of having that management of 10 plus people quite early on. So it's something that I feel is really good on this scheme. So that's one of them. Some of the other ones are project engineering as well. I'll touch on this more later because this is my current role actually. But project engineering broadly at Mondelez is more of the new equipment that's going in mainly. So if they're making improvement to a line or a whole new line for that matter, the project team will be greatly involved in designing that. They'll design it from scratch, sourcing it, building it, installing it in site, and then eventually commissioning it, and then handing over the entire process to the factory, and then the factory will have to train that out. And that's all project engineering. So that can be small scale, just adding a small bit of equipment to a line, or it can be very large scale, an entirely new line, for example. Andrew, do you have anything to add on other roles?
Yeah, I think so. I think just like to build on your point there about project engineering, because the other side of that, certainly in in a fast-moving consumer goods environment, is what we call project execution or project coordination roles, which are really much the link between an engineering team, a project engineering team, and the factory and the manufacturing teams. So those roles are typically making sure we've got really good involvement of the operator group from design stage all the way through to installation and commissioning, making sure we've got really robust training plans in place so that when we hit the ground, we can hit the ground at the level of efficiency we would want to have from the start of it, and also making sure that we've got that post-implementation, post-commissioning ramp-up really nailed down as well. So these roles, these project execution and coordination roles, are a real kind of linchpin role between the factory, between the engineering teams, within the broader business, so within supply planning and within the broader supply chain as well. A really important part of making bringing everything together in a project to make it a success. Really, with the scale of the projects that we do deal with in an organisation the size of Mondelez International, really important that we get that bit right, that we get all bits of the project brought together. So these roles give people a really good opportunity to understand how to manage across different groups and cross-functionally and at different levels, and how to communicate at different levels as well. So really invaluable experience can be gained from those sorts of roles. Okay, back to David.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew and Ben. Okay, the next question that came in, which I will direct towards Ben, is what aspects of an engineering degree will I be able to use within Mondelez International on the engineering graduate program?
Thanks, David. I'm going to answer this question from a chemical engineering degree point of view, because we also do mechanical engineering bias projects and electrical bias projects. So in terms of what I've used since I've been here, it's been quite varied and quite a lot really. So as a project engineer at uni, I did a design project. So at university, I had skills. I had to scope out what I was going to do, how much it was going to cost, how I was going to install it, how it was going to work, and all that kind of stuff. And in my role now, I'm doing similar stuff, but actually instead of it being on paper, it's real life. And everything that I design and everything that I get made, I actually get to see it physically in the factory, which I think is the biggest thing for me, and I really enjoy it. Because I guess at uni, what you didn't see is the fruits of your work. So you spend ages designing a heat exchanger for a process or a design, and yeah, it'd be good, but you don't actually get to see it. Whereas at the moment, I get to design a process, get to see it built, get to see it commissioned, and get to see it work. And at the end of the day, you get to stand back and sort of say that, yeah, I helped build that. And when you see the product on the shelf, you have a small sense of accomplishment that you helped out in a little bit in that. So that's sort of the design project that I did at uni. And then all your science comes in handy, especially with a thick liquid like chocolate. So so all your rheology that you learn comes very important. So chocolate, for example, you have to be pumping it around at 45 degrees C to make sure that you've got the right consistency. And then when you actually deposit chocolate, you want it to be at a certain temperature, so you need heat exchangers. So all your heat equation calculations and understanding this all comes in handy. And what really puts you above an operator as a process engineer is being able to understand the science behind what you're doing and not just see things happen. So I think it's very, very varied and use a lot of your degree. at different aspects and different roles as well. Use different types of skills.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Ben. Next question that came in is in regards to the location. Now, we know that on the engineering graduate program, you're expected to be geographically mobile, but someone has asked here, where am I likely to be based during the 3 years?
So to answer that question, I guess it's helpful to understand where I've been initially. So I guess the biggest manufacturing sites we have in the UK are Sheffield and Bourneville. So up in Sheffield, we make all our Maynard's products. That's all your wine gums, your Sour Patch Kids, your Ocean Minis. You also have your licorice production up there. You've got your Belvita and Oreo, and you also got soft mints. So there's a lot going on up in Sheffield. So there's a good chance that there could be something up there for you. And then there's obviously Bourneville, which is the home of Cadbury's. So we make hundreds of thousands of tons of chocolate from here a year, and we've got loads of different types of products. We've got all our Marvelous Creations, our Roses, our Heroes, our CDM tablet bars. So that's all comes from Bourneville. So it's very likely that you'll have a placement in Bourneville. Apart from those two sites, there are other key sites around the UK. So there's Chirk and Marlborough that support Bourneville very heavily in the chocolate production process. We've got Crediton, which is a very important site of our pharmaceutical aspects where Andrew currently works. And we've also got our Reading R&D Centre, which, to be honest, is unlikely that we'd have, as an engineering graduate, have a placement down there, unless you did a cross-functional placement. And also there's our main HQ in Uxbridge, where sales and marketing is located. Again, it's unlikely that there'll be an engineering placement down there. So you're mainly looking at Bourneville, Sheffield, maybe Chirk, Marlborough, or Crediton as well. Those are the main areas you're likely to be over the 3 years.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much, Ben. Okay then, so next question that came in is in regards to the function in itself. So I will put this one towards Andrew. Is engineering and manufacturing the same thing at Mondelez International?
The short answer is yes. I think what we describe it as is a manufacturing scheme that we recruit engineering graduates into. For a number of reasons. We really see the graduate schemes as being the pipeline for future leaders, for future talent, and we are a manufacturing business, so it makes a lot of sense to have some really high caliber engineers coming through that process. But it's not exclusive, because we do, as Ben's alluded to there, we do have a fairly significant research and development presence within the UK as well. And we do recruit engineers into that on their graduate scheme. So yes, if you're coming into the manufacturing area, these engineering graduates coming into a manufacturing scheme, but there are broader opportunities in that. And I think I would just add that we have a long history of recruiting graduates and moving graduates through some really glittering careers through the business. So I would encourage everybody to think broader than just what we're doing for 3 years or the 5 years beyond that, but the experience that you'll gain as a graduate recruit here and the exposure you'll get to different roles in different parts of the organisation really does open up lots of different career opportunities for you. So it's I'd encourage you all to think beyond just the three years of the scheme and think where it could take you ultimately and for your own career ambitions.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, moving on. This question I will direct towards Ben. And someone here asks, what will my first year on the program look like?
Thanks, David. So where do I start? It's been a good year. So when you first join Mondelez, there's an induction week, which is probably one of the best weeks I've had at this company. That's where all the graduates from all different functions get together for your first week. You have loads of company talks that get you really settle you into your role. You also get to drive around and see other manufacturing sites in this first week, and you get a really good impression of the business as a whole, not just the engineering side of it. You get a real insight into the sales and marketing side, the finance side, and all other aspects. And not only that, you also start to make some real good friends in that first week of all the other graduates. So it also gives you that good networking that will really help you later on, because if you need help in a different area, you've normally got a contact there because of this wide graduate network that we recruit. So that's just the first week that's really good and really settles you in, and probably one of the best weeks I've had. And then you start in your first placement. So for me, that was up in Sheffield. So up there, it was a bit of a mixture. It was a bit of a project engineering role and a bit of a process engineering role. So in the project side of it, I put in new steam heating systems. So I worked on the energy efficiency side of things. And I also put in new dehumidification systems to make sure we can make our mints properly. which again was very rewarding. And when you leave that place, you can sort of see that I did that, and that's why this process works. And so after I left Sheffield, I came down to Bourneville to do a project engineering role. So I've been here since April this year, and I'm really enjoying this. So as you may or may not know from your research into our company, we've got a huge investment in Bourneville recently, which has been great for engineering graduates, as there's been a lot of work to do. And because of the investment, there's so much work here to do that you get quite a lot of responsibility down in Bourneville at the moment in terms of engineering. So at the minute, I'm working on installing some new equipment. So I'm working on a new remelt system, and so I've been in charge of designing this. So from scratch, drawing up the PLDs, how it's going to work. That was all stuff I did. You have the help and guidance from the team around you, from the wider projects team. But essentially, I've been leading this project. So at the moment we're at the building stage. So the system that I've designed, it's gone through consultation. Now it's being built. And then in the next couple of months, I'll be installing this, commissioning this, and see it actually work. And on top of this, you get to do things like write the software for these systems. So how exactly it's going to work. So you're not just working by yourself. So this will involve working with electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, and civil engineers. So you're working with a wide group of people and getting a lot of skill sets. It's not just using your chemical engineering background. You're also having to get a deeper understanding in the electrical side of things, and the control and the software, which personally I completely love, because it's not just one thing that you're doing. You're doing a lot of different things. And then another aspect that I really enjoy in terms of projects is it's not just sitting there doing a design. You've got to make sure it actually works for the factory. So you're in the factory talking to operators, making sure it's going to work, making sure it's safe, and all the other things that you don't really think about. And then when you really take a step back from everything that you do in projects, when I was a student at uni, for example, and you picked up a chocolate bar, you just ate it, not really thinking anything of it. Whereas now I go into a shop, pick up a chocolate bar, and realise that there's a massive factory doing a lot of stuff just to get this product on the shelf, and you really have a deep appreciation for how much energy and engineering work goes into making just a chocolate bar. So that's sort of a brief role of what I'm doing at Bourneville, and I'm also doing other projects on top of that. But that's sort of the main one I've got on at the minute. And then so all of that's been within 1 year. So I've done a lot of work at Sheffield and Bourneville, and now I'm moving into my second year at the minute. So I'm sort of trying to organise a process engineering placement now at Bourneville. So this will give me a lot of commissioning experience. So there's a lot of scope of what you can do in your first year. Isn't guaranteed to look like mine. You might be involved in different areas, but all I can say is you'll get a lot of training, and it'll be hard work, and you'll learn a lot in that year, and most of all will be good fun.
Okay, thank you very much, Ben. Okay, so I think what Ben was saying there sort of highlights one of the great things about the graduate programs at Mondelez International, because we don't run our roles as a graduate role. We put our graduates into real roles within the organisation, and that's what really stands us out in terms of what we're able to offer to the people that do join our business on our graduate programs. So I'd like to thank Ben for his answer on that one. Okay, so actually moving on from that, would be best to direct this one towards Andrew, which is, do I have the opportunity to work in other functions?
Absolutely, yes. I think it's really important. We are looking for people to have a really rounded view of the whole organisation at the end of their 3-year scheme. So we've got people who really understand the business who can really help us move forward. Typically, one of the 4 placements that somebody would go on might be in customer service, or might be within a project management area, as in product change project management, that would be, or into R&D. So there definitely opportunities are there, and are absolutely encouraged. As we've both mentioned, as we've talked through this, you get an awful lot of experience from being in different environments and different parts of the business. So for me, one of the most powerful learning experiences I see with the graduates is when they are doing the team leader placement within a factory. But equally, a close second to that is one that's outside of the normal manufacturing remit, just to understand the different interactions and the different stakeholder groups and the different systems and processes. Really helps people understand how things work and really how things knit together and how to get things done in the organisation. And that, put all that together, and you've then got somebody at the end of the scheme who has some real deep understanding of how to do the very best they can for the organisation, and really kind of rich learning experience. And I think, sorry to repeat David's point there, but that we do stand out from a lot of the schemes and a lot of other graduates, that we put our graduates pretty much, not from day one, but as soon as we can, into real roles in the organisation, so that they're really adding value to us, and really with some really clear accountabilities from day one, and that's really important to us.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew. Okay, moving on from that, again, Andrew, this one's to you. Will I get to choose the types of roles I work in during the rotational system?
Yes, this is a very simple answer again. And what we encourage the graduates to do, all the graduates to do, is to quickly build that network of contacts through the business, and really work on their own options for where do I go next, so what's my next role, my next placement. And we really don't want to be holding people's hands through the scheme. We've got a lot of support there. We've got mentors, and we've got buddies, etc., more graduates in further years there to make sure people have got the right support. But we want people to be finding their own way. So from where people are in their first placement, we want them to be using their network that they've got through the induction week, through the contacts they've made in their first placement, to be trying to work out where do I need to go next to get that next bit of experience within the career ladder. So yeah, so very much up to you to choose your own next steps, if you like. But clearly, we've got to make sure that we're taking you down a route that's going to get you everything you need from your graduate scheme, whether it be professional development or whether it be actually what the business needs from you at the end of it. Okay.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. And moving on from that, another question based around the different types of roles that are on offer during this program. Again, Andrew, will I get the opportunity to work internationally on the engineering graduate program?
Okay, so we are an international business, and we're a European part of an international business. However, this is a UK and Ireland graduate scheme. So yes, there is the opportunity to go abroad, but the likelihood is that people will be based in the UK on the sites that we've talked about earlier, or potentially into Ireland. That said, it's not an absolute no, because there may be some opportunities, maybe some business needs for people working in cross-functional teams that need to be broader than that. But I think it would be fair to say that the majority of graduates spend their 3 years in the UK, or very occasionally doing a placement in Ireland. It's probably the best way to say. I think what's important to realise is that we are part of an international business, and a big part of it, what we do, is a European business. And I can think of quite a few graduates who have quickly moved into, because they've wanted to, and it's been the right career move for them, into more European-based roles as engineers or within the other schemes as well. So, yeah, just because we're not overt about being there now doesn't mean to say the possibilities aren't there in the future. In fact, the opposite is true.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay then, now this question's come up quite a few times in terms of the professional qualifications that are on offer during the engineering graduate program. What is on offer, first of all, and how do they go about getting that?
Okay, so I'll reach out to Ben in a minute for some on the ground feedback on this one, because he's going through the process. But we would want to all the engineers that we recruit to go through and become chartered status. Obviously, it kind of depends on your starting point, which engineering degree you're coming through, and therefore which awarding body we'll be working with. We have a good relationship with the IChemE, which I'll look to Ben to in a minute. He can build in on that. But yeah, we would want everybody to kind of get to the chartered status, but very much depends on the starting point. So if we could just ask Ben to just give a few words on what he's going through for his chartered status. Thanks.
Hello, thanks, Andrew. Yeah, so we have an IChemE accredited scheme here. So when you join Mondelez, you'll get assigned an IChemE mentor. They'll help you through the steps. So at the minute, I'm currently filling out all the steps I need to do and all the project work that I'm doing at the minute. All of that helps towards building towards my chartership. So there is a support network here that will help you through that. And like I said, you get assigned a mentor who can take you step through it, and you set up regular meetings to make sure that you're on track and hitting your target. And the aim is that by the end of these 3 years, I would have had enough experience and got all my forms filled out, and then I can apply for chartership. So by the end of the 3 years, I'll either be very close or be chartered, and that's one of my aims. And one of the flexibilities I like about Mondelez is that if I had no intention of being chartered, then that's fine. And if you have a really big intention of getting a chartered ICME, then again, it's all here for you to do as much as you want with it. So yes, I'm really happy with the ICME scheme here at the minute, and it's definitely something that you can do here, and you will be heavily supported in doing as well.
Okay, thank you to both of you. Okay, we're coming up to the end now. We have one more question to put forward, and Ben, I'm going to put this one forward to you. So moving on from the sort of professional qualifications, what sort of training will I get on the job whilst I'm on the engineering program?
Thanks, David. You get a lot of training here. So here we use the 70-20-10 model, as it were. So the idea that 70% of your learning is on-the-job training. So what you do day to day in the office. And I totally agree with this model. I think most of my learning does come from what I do day to day. It's where I get my skills, my engineering skills. It's where you get the experience, especially in project work. Experience is key. Actually putting stuff in and commissioning it is you're not going to learn anything better than actually doing it. But having said that, you can't always just rely on that 70%. You also have this 20%, which is sort of coaching and feedback, which again, I've benefited greatly from being here. So when you join Mondelez International, you get a buddy, which is normally a second or third year graduate, and they're there so you can ask them any silly questions that you don't want to ask anyone else. Whether that's where do I want to live, whether that's who do I talk to, whether it's where's the toilet, anything as silly as that, you can ask your buddy and they'll help you out. And then you also get given a line manager, so they're sort of in charge of your day-to-day role, as it were, and they'll help you and guide you through your day-to-day job, what you need to get done, and how to do it, and how to manage your stakeholders around what you're doing now. And then on top of that, you also get given a mentor, which is normally someone who's a bit higher up in the company who can help network you around. So as Andrew said earlier, it's a good idea to network for your next placement, or to find areas that you're interested in, or even just to find out about the company in general, because you want to know how it all ticks. And your mentor's a very useful contact, so I use mine quite a lot to talk to and about whether it's my next placement, if it's a good idea. And they always give you very good constructive feedback of, have you thought about this, have you talked to this person? And they give me a lot of contacts that I can use that I then talk to, and then you sort of start to build this network around you, which I find very good. And then on top of all that, you have half-year and year-end reviews where you set your goals, and you review this midway through the year and at the end of the year. And this is a really good way of sort of keeping on top of, am I getting what I want out of this scheme, and is my development where I want it to be? So I found this very useful. So for example, in your mid-year review, I sat down with my manager, we went through what I've done this year, what my goals are, what my development plan is, and you can sort of see where you're on track. And for me personally, there's a few areas that I wasn't on track for. So we had a long conversation about where I can improve, and now I feel like I'm on track to meet my development goals that I want to get to by the end of the year. So you get a lot of help and a lot of support on this scheme, and I found it very beneficial, especially in my first year here.
Okay, thank you very much. Very informative from both of you. Now, that actually brings us to the close of this Hangout for the Engineering Graduate Programme. We've answered all the questions that we've had come through, so I'm hoping for all of you who did ask any questions that we've managed to actually answer them to a point that you're now feeling a little bit more informed in terms of whether you want to apply and how you're going to go about undertaking your time here at Mondelez International. For all of those who have watched this that are thinking of applying, don't forget our graduate programs close on the applications close on the 15th of November, so you have a little under 1 month to get those finished. However, just because this Hangout is coming to a close, this doesn't mean that you still can't ask us any questions. Please still contact us on our Facebook, Mondelez International, or Twitter page at MDLZ. We will answer every question that comes through in relation to an early careers application query, anything that is on your mind, please feel free to ask us, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. So I thank everyone that has tuned in to watch this, whether that be live or whether you're watching the recording of this on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining in with us, and we wish you all the luck with your application. Thank you very much. Goodbye to Ben, and goodbye to Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care now.